my name is Robert Chu, and I'm your Zoom host for today. I'm here to assist our presenters. So our breakout today is titled Integrated Education and Training, English Language Support for Career Training. I'll now make a few housekeeping announcements before we get started. So please keep yourselves muted during the presentation unless our presenters want it to be a little more interactive. And then if you have a question, please enter it into the Whova Q&A window to the right of your video. We'll be uploading the breakout presentations, materials, and recording this breakout, and everything will be available for the attendees to access after the conference. After the breakout, please make sure to click the Rate Session button to complete a brief survey. And currently, unfortunately, the Sweetwater district currently does have a bit of an internet network issue right now. So if anything like cuts out, the program will still be running. So we'll just wait for him to log back on and get back to it. And yeah, with that, you can introduce yourselves.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, everybody. We are a part of the Sweetwater Union High School District, the Division of Adult Education. And today we want to share with you our journey on how we created an IET program. As Robert said, IET stands for Integrated Education and Training. And what we did was we married our career training with IET, which is English language support for those students that were limited English. As you will hear further along in the presentation, we don't want language to be a barrier for our students getting jobs and basically being able to participate in career training. So I know that this is a counselor's conference, but hopefully you will have some ideas maybe to share with your staff, to share with your site on how to provide IET to your career training courses if you have them. So let's get started. Let me introduce myself. My name is Audrey Dierdorff. I am the adult education resource teacher, and these are my other co-presenters.
Good morning, a pleasure to be with you this morning. My name is Anel Martinez. I am the CT resource teacher for Sweetwater Adult Schools.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dana Orozco, and I am the ESL resource teacher at Sweetwater Adult School. Nice to be here with you.
And I forgot to mention that we will take questions at the end, and Robert is going to be monitoring the chat. So if you could go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and at the end, we will make sure that we have enough time to address them all. So Anel.
So we have 4 different adult school sites through Sweetwater Adult School. First, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tidbit about our student population. Prior to the pandemic, we had 8,000 to 10,000 students. During our virtual classes during the pandemic, we had 2,000 to 3,000 students. And currently our numbers are growing. We now have 4,000 to 5,000 students, and 475 students make up our CT program in our adult division. So again, we have 4 sites. This is Chula Vista Adult School. We have first our IET instructor, Diana Arellano, followed by Pam Nagy, which is our medical instructor, Maria Gonzalez, who is our culinary nutritional services cafeteria assistant instructor and pastry chef instructor, and Julie Ellis, who teaches computer applications and professional administrative assistant. Also, we have Montgomery Adult School, where we have pastry chef instructor Adriana Ventura, and we have Rosie Dominguez, who is the IET instructor, and our newest addition, who is Jesus Arias, who will be teaching advanced manufacturing courses beginning January 2022. Our next site is National City Adult School, where we have Myrna Ventura, who is teaching pastry chef, and Sonia Mahmoud, who is our IT instructor. And next we see her again here, Sonia Mahmoud, with Mary Alvarado, who's our drone instructor. In addition, we have courses such as security officer, computer applications, CNA, healthcare essentials. And last, we have San Isidro Adult School. We have Marta Reyes, who is our IT instructor. We have Susan Buchelman, who is our medical terminology, medical administrative assistant instructor, and Kate Barra, who is our CNA instructor. Maria Shaw, who is our Healthcare Essentials instructor and also medical clinical assistant, and our newest addition, John Alba, who will be teaching CNA and Healthcare Essentials in spring 2022. And last, we have Gabriel Godinez, our computer apps application instructor at San Isidro Adult School.
So before we continue, we kind of want to know who our audience is and what you're thinking when you think IET. So maybe in the chat, if you would either write yes or no, how many of you have an IET program? So in the chat, if you would go ahead and put yes or no, we'll give you 30 seconds. And Robert, if you can go ahead and kind of tell us what people are saying.
No answers yet.
Okay.
I think since we have such a small crowd, we can also just unmute and say something if we need to.
Perfect. If you'd like to unmute and let us know if you have an IET program at your site, or you can put it in the chat. Anyone? Any brave soul want to step up? No? Okay, we'll go on. So just thinking about how many IET classes do you have at your school or at your site? If you can in the chat, just put like the number. If you have one IET class or if you have two, you can do that. And then the last question would be, how many of you are thinking about starting an IET program? So if you're thinking about starting one, but and you were just kind of curious and you came in here, if you would just put yes or no in the chat, or you can unmute and just let us know. No? Anybody? Okay, then we will continue on. So for today, we hope that you will learn and understand why, how, and what is behind our journey to basically start our program, why we wanted to start our program, and now expand our program. And at the end of this presentation, we want you to be able to describe the steps of how we started and expanded, as well as be able to apply the information that you get here to support your own program or to start your own program, or to share with your administrator or share with those that have career training and would like to have English language support. So Dana.
Thank you, Audrey. So we'd like to tell you a little bit about the why of our desire to start and expand our IET program. And so what you see here is our mission statement for our adult education division. And you can see that we are dedicated to, as Audrey alluded in the beginning, to not letting language be a barrier to having our students earn a sustainable living wage. So we know that there's technical training need in our region of of San Diego, and we know that there's a language need. And so what can we do as an agency to be able to support those two things in order for our students to be able to earn a sustainable living wage? And so this is really the big picture why we have invested so much in this program, and why we believe in this program, and why we're pushing forward with this program. Another one of our whys is the next slide, when we look at the demand for giving our students the basic skills such as reading comprehension, writing, speaking within the career training that they're receiving. So we know that these students that are coming for this career training are coming because they want to learn a trade, but we also know that they need these basic skills to be able to go out in the industry and obtain that job. And so what can we do to mesh these two things? And that's really the why behind our desire for the IET program. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about how we started from the inception of our IET program to where we are today. And so the first thing we had to do was to apply for a grant. Once we received the money for the grant, we were able to move forward with starting the IET program. And so we wanted to pilot the program, pilot this, language learning with the career technical training in one of our classes. And so we chose child development. Anel is actually the original teacher of this class and the CTE teacher of this class. And this class did really well. The IET teacher, the language support, and Anel as the CTE instructor really worked well together and were able to provide that language support and the career training that the students needed. And the students were very successful in this class. So we piloted it. It went well. We also knew how important it was to look at in our region what the in-demand industry was. And so we looked at the San Diego Workforce Partnership website, and we were able to identify those in-demand jobs in our region to really put an emphasis on, where are students getting jobs after they finish our training with us. And that's really where we wanted to put the focus area. And so you can see here, this is data, I think this is from 2019, of where those in-demand jobs were in our region. So we looked at that. The second thing we did was we looked at our current English language learner students, and we wanted to ask them what their interests were in receiving career training. And so we gave them a survey. We asked them of our career training classes that we are currently offering at our schools, which ones are you interested in? And so some of the data for that our students selected, you can see on the next slide with the graph here, that they were interested in our floral class. So we had a floral class that was currently going, and they were really interested in that. But if you remember the in-demand data, floral is not an in-demand job in our region. And so that was something that we needed to consider when we were looking at where to put this IET support, which classes. And students also selected patient care and healthcare administrative services if they were interested in that. And so we looked at the in-demand industry data, and we were able to say, okay, this is a pathway where jobs are in need. So they needed workers. And so we needed to make sure that the classes that we were offering aligned with what was in demand in the industry. And so that's what we looked at moving forward with our IET program and how to expand it. So we continue to grow. So from that first piloted child development class, we grew in the next year in 2018, and we expanded a little bit to welding, medical terminology, and administrative professional. So we had more CTE classes that were running at the time, but we wanted to expand the English language, the IET support that we were offering with these CTE classes. And so this is where we decided to go. We wrote a co-op in this welding class. It's basically like a performance task that English language learners have to do in adult education. That was a good milestone for us. We also, again, continue to expand in medical terminology. We saw the need that students, English language learners, needed that language support in these classes. And so we wanted to provide that for our students, as well as administrative professional. There's a lot of language need in that class where it's writing a professional email and speaking, to a client. And so we found that we needed to provide that support for the students that were coming to these classes to receive this training, the language support. So at this point, around 2018, we decided, we kind of reflected a little bit, and we found that there were some challenges that were happening in these classes with the language support and the CTE instructors. While the co-teaching partnership worked really well in one class, we found that that wasn't the case across the whole board of the classes that had the language support, the IET support. And so what could we do to really form this partnership, this strong bond, this trust within the classroom? We also realized that students did not like to be pulled out of their CTE class to receive that language support. So that pull-out was not liked by the students. And we also found that sometimes we didn't have the language support teachers available in the CTE classes where we found that there was language need from the beginning of the semester. So we kind of started the CTE class, we discovered that there was language need in that class, and then we tried to find a teacher. Well, by that time, a couple of weeks had already passed in the class. And so we thought we need to have this language support from the beginning of the semester for these CTE classes. So these were some of our initial challenges when we started growing and expanding in about 2018.
So how do we expand IET programs to all of our courses? So we learned about the why we needed to implement it, but how do we do this? One of the first things that we did is to gauge the need for language support. So we surveyed all of our CTE students. Next, Dana and I both presented IET program to all of our CTE courses and created a student list. Then our language literacy instructors conducted a Google survey, and we found that 52% of students surveyed self-identified as having a language deficiency. So we embedded IET support in all of our CTE courses. As you can see, these are the courses that we offer at our adult division through Sweetwater, and all of these courses have IET embedded, regardless of the demand set out there for workforce, because we want to make sure that all of the students have high rigor academic with CTE due to the 11 elements of a high quality CTE program, and also because our students are most of the time are receiving articulation through our nearby college, Southwestern College.
So we went from one piloted child development class with IET support to 4. So we were expanding to all IET support that we currently have in our CTE classes. And so we want to talk to you now about some lessons that we've learned along the way in implementing IET support in all of our CTE classes. We found that it was very important to educate all of our staff. So from the front office to all of our teachers, even if they were not IET teachers or CTE teachers, our ESL teachers, our ABE teachers, all of our teachers needed to know about this program so that we could all be on the same page as far as what we were communicating to the students and the support that they were receiving. And so we learned that it was very important to identify also what it is not. So we found that it was very important that we communicated the message that the IET is not a tutor. So they are not experts in the CTE content. They are there to identify the language need in the CTE content and support the students with their language needs. So they're not an expert in content, they're not a tutor. They're also not only just a technology support. So we started applying the CTE support across all of our our IET support across all of our CTE classes when we went into distance learning. So when the school shutdown happened, so there was a lot of technology that was happening, a lot of support there. And our language instructors were very competent in the technology and they were willing to help, of course, but that's not the only reason why they were there, right? They're there to instruct in the language need. And they're not a translator. So it's really important that when we communicated to students that they would receive language support, we were not talking about translating in their native language. We were talking about giving them the English skills that they would need to be successful in a job and go out and get a job. And so we created a couple of visuals here to be able to communicate that message of what it is not. And so you can see under this umbrella of IET what it is. So here it is. It's 3 components as well as the bubble graph as well, kind of the Venn diagram type of graph. So it's the language and literacy instructors. And if we refer to them as language instructors, that's who we're talking about. They're ESL instructors, they're our IET teachers, they're the experts in the language component. So that's the first part of the umbrella of IET. Then we also have CTE instructors. So they are our workforce training instructors. They are the ones giving the content. They are the experts in the field. And then the last component of IET is preparing our students for the workforce skills. So employability skills, things like digital literacy, working well with others, cooperation, communication, critical thinking. That's also a component of IET because we know those are the soft skills that they're going to need to be successful in obtaining their job and maintaining their job and moving up in their job. And so that's kind of what the IET model entails. And so these visuals were very helpful in educating our staff of what IET is and what it is not.
So lessons learned along the way. So gathering data, as we presented about IET to our community partners, many times they asked, what kind of data did we have? And we didn't really have a data system in place, right? So what we started to use is what we had. We started to develop Google surveys, use CASAS data, looking at the average ESL level, engaging the IET need. Also, we found that many of our medical pathway, many of our students were co-enrolled. As an example, medical terminology with medical administrative assistant, or medical terminology with medical administrative clinical. And so we wanted to make sure that we were able to support all of our students in providing IET support, and also promotion of IET within the school. So we have done IET presentations in ESL classes and CTE courses, but also Audrey has done a lot of community presentations promoting our CT courses, but also talking about how we have IET embedded. And the benefit to this is that we have many students that perhaps don't have the language and literacy skills because they're still English learners. However, upon learning that we're offering IET, they see that they can also come in and enter a CT course, enroll in a CT course, and that they're going to have that additional support by learning the terminology, the vocabulary, getting those comprehension skills to be able to navigate those textbooks or digital curriculum. So those community presentations have really supported and helped out to reach out to students to see that they can enter a CT course, but also gain language and literacy skills while they're taking their course. Lastly, we also, Dana and I also attended the CalPro IET Implementation Clinic. If you have not attended that, or if you're thinking about implementing an IET program for the first time, we highly recommend that. There we learned a lot of skills that helped both Dana and I to see how would we work together with our CT instructors and now our language and literacy instructors. We also send a second cohort once we have our language and literacy instructors in place, with medical instructors as well, so that they could also receive that training. So we've had 2 different cohorts that have been able to attend this CalPro implementation clinic.
Thank you. I just wanted to jump in and talk about this community presentation. You won't believe how many people I've presented to that are shocked that they don't have to have a high level of English in order to take a career training course. And so it's really opened up a lot of possibilities for our community to get the training they need in order to get the wage that they need to support their families. And I think that's the biggest excitement for me in going out and promoting this program, is that they're getting what they need and what they want in order to help and serve their families. And so I just wanted to add that.
Correct, Audrey. And I'll piggyback on that. Earlier, Dana mentioned too, the sustainable wage, being able to increase that sustainable wage, especially here in the South Bay. So we open all of our CT courses for any student that wants to enter our programs. And again, this is the why of why we have embedded the IET program into all of our CT courses.
Thank you. Yeah, so we talked about that CalPro implementation clinic. So here's kind of, after receiving that training and going to that workshop, we applied what we learned, and we really were able to, how do we support this program? How do we grow this program? How do we support our teachers and our students? And so these are some of the things that we do to support the program. On the top of the list is providing time for the teachers to collaborate. And so our division has invested the extra duty. It's extra duty paid planning time. It's outside of their regular teaching time that they are paid to get together and collaborate on, what is the most important part of this CTE content that they're going to be learning. Maybe it's a competency, maybe it's the objective for the week. And they really break it down and they say, okay, what are the language needs that are within this this content that they're going to be learning. And so they plan together, basically, and that has been crucial to this program and being able to support them. Another thing that we do regularly is check in with the language instructors to provide support. So when we first started with this big expansion last year, we applied the language instruction to all of our CTE courses. And so we knew that there was going to be a lot of questioning and a lot of support that needed to happen. And so we made ourselves available, and now myself and an administrator usually, to meet with these language instructors and be there for them, listen to them and provide the support and guide them. That was very important as well, communication. We also found that it was beneficial to at least once a month, maybe workshops and during your professional development days, to develop the IET program. And some of the topics that I'm going to talk about a little bit more in the subsequent slides here are what is co-teaching? What is alternate teaching? And how would you do one? When would you do one? And what would that look like? We're going to talk about that in a little bit more. We're going to show you a video that we showed to our teachers to kind of talk about this. We also have talked about planning documents. So how can we organize what we're doing in the teaching into a document that we can use and update and really refer back to when we're meeting together and we're planning in this curriculum? And then what really does the integrated instruction look like in the classroom? So these are some of the topics that we've talked about in this program development time. And again, I'm going to talk to you in the next slide about what the planning document looks like. So we found that this was really helpful when the teachers are getting together and they're planning for the next week's instruction. And so the CTE instructor, you'll see here in the step 1, that's what we need to know first. We need to know what's the content that they're going to be learning in that CTE class for the week. And so once that's identified, the language instructor and the CTE instructor, they'll break it down a little bit and look for that language support, that needs to happen. And that's that step 2. That's that adult basic education, the reading, writing, listening, speaking, comprehension component that is identified in the CTE content. And so this is an example of one of the planning documents that we've started, and it continues to evolve, right? So this is just what we have right now, but it's very important for us to have something concrete that we have written so that we can continue to sustain this program and just build upon it. So that was one of the topics of one of our program development that we did for IET. So another thing that I want to show you here is really what does integrated instruction mean? And so we did a workshop with our teachers, our CTE teachers and our language teachers, and we really wanted to break this down for them so that they could conceptualize, they could visualize what the components of IET are. So when you look at that IET model on that top left, the bubbles, really what does that mean when we're in the classroom and when we're teaching this? And so we broke apart each of those bubbles and we looked at a typical medical lesson plan. So you can see here, this is just a lesson plan on taking blood pressure and pulse. And so we asked the teachers, and we did this via Zoom because we were distant, we were at home, but we asked the teachers, put a little sticky note on this document. We used Jamboard, which is a Google application. We said, put a little sticky note and brainstorm on what the students are being asked to do. So in this CTE lesson, what's the content that the students are learning? And so you can see here, this is the ideas of what our teachers put. They're taking vital signs, they're taking pulse, they are understanding what the pulse represents. All of these things are the ideas that our teachers put down here. And so that's the first step in integrated instruction, is first identifying the workforce training and what the students are being asked to do. If we go on to the next step, now we're looking at the language. So when we look at the same lesson here of taking blood pressure and pulse, we're now breaking it down to what is the language that the students are being asked to do. So this is what our teachers put on here. Well, there's a lot of reading here. So we need to make sure the students are understanding what they're reading, the reading comprehension. They also need to write down the things that are associated with the blood pressure and a pulse. So that's really important. That's a language skill. Are they explaining the procedure to the patient? So speaking. So again, you can see it's just breaking down what they would need, what the students would need to do language-wise. And that's the second step. And then the last step in integrated instruction is that workforce preparation component. So kind of those soft skills, those employability skills. So again, the same lesson here, but what type of workforce preparation, soft skills are the students going to need to do to successfully carry out this lesson. And so our teachers put some great ideas here. They need to have a good attitude. They need to have emotional intelligence to show empathy with the patient, so important in the medical field. They need to effectively communicate. They need to be able to collaborate and have good customer service. So all of these things are components that our students are going to be asked to do on the job. And so how do we reinforce that in this lesson here?
So now we are going to show you a teaching demo. So this is our pastry chef and our IET teacher at Chula Vista Adult School. So I'm going to turn up my volume to make sure that you guys can all hear it. And remember, we're going to take questions at the end. So please make sure to put your questions in the chat, but I will go ahead and play the video.
Next week you guys are going to be interviewed, so you got to get these questions. Remember, they're going to be in English. So, okay, Anel, why are you the best candidate for this job? What would be your answer?
Candidate? What is candidate?
Candidate. Could you give them a little bit of example?
In your interview, you're going to hear maybe a couple words that you may not be familiar with. That's why we're practicing. So candidate can refer to the person. This is you, because you're the person that is applying for the job, or the right person, right? Why are you the right person?
Because they may ask you 2 or 3 ways. I don't know how they're going to interview you. So they might say, why are you the best candidate? Why are you the right person? Why should I hire you? It's different, but it basically means the same.
And with that question, why should I hire you? This hire, it's actually synonymous also with what we were, the same question that Ms. Gonzalez asked. Hire is select you for the job, or why should they pick you for the job?
Oh.
You get it now?
Yes, yes.
Mrs. Adams, how would you answer that?
I think I am the best candidate because I went to Chula Vista Adult School and I took some really good classes that helped me move up the ladder to be able to do a better job for you.
Exactly. So you're taking a class on cafeteria attendant. Plus, don't forget to mention that you do have the food handler's card. So those are 2 very key elements to getting the job.
So that was 2 students, but not really. We just, to make the demo. So that is our assistant principal and Anel. So let's get what your thoughts are of what you saw. You can go ahead and unmute or write it in the chat. Robert, if you would check the chat. So what did you notice about how the teachers were working together? Well, give me some comments of what you saw. You can unmute and answer or write it in the chat. Anybody? Robert, anybody writing in the chat?
Nothing in the Whoba chat.
Okay.
One
Okay,
thing
what
that
about?
I noticed, sorry, Audrey, one thing that I noticed too, that when I first watched that video, was how well the teachers meshed and how they played off of each other and really supported that instruction. But that language instructor was really able to hone in on the language needs. And so as Maria was teaching and instructing, she said, okay, I think this word candidate, they're really going to maybe struggle with what that means. And so let's break it down a little bit more. Let's dissect it a little bit more and present it in multiple ways. Mm-hmm. And so that was something that, was really helpful for our language students when they actually did this lesson, because they did do this lesson in their class. They were just reenacting it.
Yes.
Thank you. Robert, did you have some?
Yeah, I think just the same feedback, just how much attention they're paying to for individual words that are just a little more difficult or out of normal usage. So it's just good to see that type of work.
Okay. Anel, did you want to comment?
Yes, it's a great example of co-teaching. right? That the mesh between both instructors works great. Language and literacy, CTE, coming together to support the students with those language needs.
Thank you. So, I know, what teaching method do you have in your IET program? So I think we didn't have anybody that responded that you had one, but maybe Dana or Anel, if you want to talk about the difference of what we just saw in co-teaching and what alternate teaching actually looks like.
So co-teaching is when you're working side to side with the instructor in your classroom. As an example, when we talked about the first pilot program that we had for IET in our division, that was child development. I had Rosalinda Dominguez, who was the ESL instructor working with me. Again, new program, had never taught IET and CT together. And it was great because we worked out of the same classroom and all we applied was co-teaching. There was really no alternative teaching. Again, the ESL instructor had no exposure to child development. Her expertise was ESL courses. And so by her being able to be in the classroom with me throughout the whole time, it really supported her in learning child development theory. What is this theory? What are students going to be learning? What are some of those competencies that need to be mastered for CTE in this particular course? So as I was doing theory, she was able to gauge the students, see how much of the theory they comprehended, where they needed some assistance. So we were able to break away in small groups and bring them back together into whole group instructing. I know that in some other courses, we tried alternative teaching, and that's where the teacher takes the students into a different classroom and reviews those competencies or those areas where students are having challenges. It could be individual, one-on-one, or it could be in a bigger group setting with students. Dana, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, exactly. Just to piggyback on what Anel said, that co-teaching really allows that on the spot. Not only are the language teachers, being able to learn the content that the students might struggle with, but it also enables the teacher to provide that on the spot support. And so they're right there. The student just heard the content from the CTE instructor. Maybe they're, not grasping it. And the language instructor is right there to be able to provide that support. So that is crucial. And then the alternate teaching, it can be on the front end or the back end, right? So Anel just gave an example of students are struggling maybe. So the language teacher will, pull them aside and be able to present the material maybe in a different way, break it down maybe in a different way. But also on the front end, maybe they can anticipate some pronunciation difficulties that the students might have. And so they kind of front load the material before they hear it from the CTE teacher so that they're hearing it a second time, and so that is really, really helpful as well. So there's pros and cons of each, but really we're trying to decipher of when to use which one and when, right? So that's really important.
Thank you.
So lessons learned along the way, team building. So we have two different programs. We have CTE and ESL merging together, two different complete program areas. How do we team build? So that's one of those things that we had to really dive deep into. And so, for co-teachers, building a trusting relationship, right? How do we promote that? How do we get our teachers from our language and literacy instructors to now connect and collaborate with our CT instructors and also be able to have that capability to co-teach and alternate teach to support our students? So one of the first most important step is building that trust. We found that teachers really needed to build that trust. And so during the virtual time that we spent at home and our program, our IET program is being implemented in our RC courses, Dana and I focused mostly on allowing instructors to build that trust, to collaborate so many hours a week. And that collaboration could be on learning more about each other's strengths. So we had the opportunity to, prior to the pandemic, 6 months prior to the pandemic, to attend a Gallup training on strengths training. And as an example, some of my strengths are positivity, achiever, learner, input, and arranger. What are your strengths, Dana?
My strengths are belief, responsibility, learner, relator, and harmony.
Yes, so very different strengths, right? And in order to establish a collaboration in making opportunities for our CT instructors and IT instructors to build trust, Dana and I also had to mesh together. Again, ESL, CTE, we had to learn about each other. We had to build a trust, that relationship to be able to work with each other and learn each other's strengths, right? And so upon learning our strengths, we were able to, okay, now we're ready to bring in these instructors together and get them, to start building those collaborations. So a lot of communication, connection, and we had no expected outcomes. We just thought, let's be patient with this, let this roll. It's going to start to unfold, and it has. And so we try to really use instructor strengths and also help the instructors build that rapport, because again, it's not just one program alone, it's CTE and ESL merging together.
So, as you think about it, what would be some ideas if you guys want to start doing IET at your site? What are some of the ways, or maybe from your own personal experience, how to build trust and form relationships between the CTE and language teachers? Do we have any ideas? Maybe you want to share some ideas that you would have. You can either, again, unmute or put it in the chat. I'll give you a few seconds.
And I would just say it can be anything, anything that you can think of that would just build that relationship. Going out to lunch, anything really could be a good idea.
Okay. Robert, anything in the chat?
Nothing in the chat on Huva, but I think it might be good to. Oh, there's Jessica responded that they can write lesson plans together.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, I think it also might be good to have them attend workshops that are run by the other instructors.
Like shadowing or like observation?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Anel?
Now we're going to talk a little bit about teaching resources. So Dana and I also had to look at the resources that we had in place or how to bridge new resources. So we made committees with ESL and CTE committees where teachers actually got to see what teaching resources are we going to implement? What are some things that can merge great among both programs? So we started to use MindTap, a digital curriculum, and then Kitchen Practices, a digital curriculum for culinary. MindTap is completely aligned with Precision Exams, which is a national industry certification, and then Academic Integrated Curriculum, and then Burlington English to supplement language acquisition. Again, these weren't things that Dana and I came up with and just presented to our instructors. All of this were decisions made by our CT instructors, our language and literacy instructors, coming together to say, this is what we need in order for our students to succeed. When we look at Precision Exams, that's a nationally recognized industry certification, and both our language and literacy instructors and our CT instructors are working hand in hand, giving the students support, because we're finding that with Precision Exams, for example, in our medical pathway, upon receiving 80 to 85% on a post-test, it's a great indicator that the student is one step closer to being able to test out of a state certification. So if a student is having a little bit of a challenge with Precision Exams, acquiring that 80%, that's where the language and literacy instructor support comes in too. Is it comprehension? Is it maybe reading? Do we need to add some wraparound services that we offer through our division to support the student furthermore? So giving the opportunity to both CTE instructors and language and literacy instructors for them to see what resources exist. And we're not just limited to this. These are just some of the resources that we have in place for our IET program.
We also want to tell you a little bit about our wraparound services. So, not only are we looking at what curriculum we can offer and we can use to be able to support the students in these classes, but also outside of that, what else can we do to support? And so we have a Disability Adult Resource Center we call DARC, that if students just need that extra support in that sense, we can offer that to them. We do have students that are CT students, IET students who are also benefiting from DARC. So that's a great way for us to be able to provide one way of a wraparound service. We also have Goodwill workshops. So we've partnered with Goodwill in our community, and they come to us and they give us these workshops. There's 5 of them. You can see the titles there. And this really helps with the workforce preparation component of this program, where they come and they learn about how to interview. How do I answer this question? And how am I successful in an interview? How do I communicate at work? How do I fill out an online job application? These sort of things we're able to bring to our students. We have presenters that come to us from Goodwill and they present to our classes. And the students can also meet with a counselor at Goodwill and work one-on-one with them. And so it's a great support for us to be able to offer to our students. And many students have received jobs after attending these workshops and said how helpful these workshops have been for them. And so this is a big area for us in providing that service for them. We also have a very supportive administration. So those that are kind of putting the emphasis in the areas that they need to be, our admin supports us 100%. And we communicate a lot with them. And so they know kind of our needs and they're able to support it because, again, going back to our mission statement, it's the why behind all of this. And so they believe in this program and they're very supportive. We also have site counselors that we can give to our students, and those services, as well as EOC counselors that our students can go and see and talk to them as far as their goals and moving forward and pathways and next step. And we also have Friday student support classes. Anel, did you want to talk a little bit about those?
Yes, our Friday student support classes consist of support for our industry classes. For example, if a student's enrolled in medical terminology, there's a Friday support class in case the student needs more support, whether it's with precision exams. Just along with the state certification, 45% of that content that students will be tested on is medical terminology. So we offer these supports to all of our CT students so that they can be able to, 1, pass their course, and 2, make sure that they're more closer to passing that state certification. One of the other things that we're emphasizing this semester is making sure that students pass, where applicable, state certifications before leaving the semester that they'll be completing. Another thing is the virtual job fairs. We do virtual job fairs for our students in different industries to make sure that they're also able to gain employment prior to leaving the class that they're enrolled in. And again, just piggybacking with Dana on the Goodwill has been a great collaboration and partnership because we usually tend to start these workshops at the beginning of the semester. So students already have their resume. So as we are going into the virtual job fairs, and perhaps we have that Zoom link for the breakout room, we can actually have employers interview our students within that virtual link for that employment fair. So these are some of the wraparound services that we have in place, and not just limited to these, but the most important ones that we found that we could share with all of you. Now we're going to go on to student testimonials. This is a medical course at San Isidro Adult School, and this is just for you to get a glimpse of the students that are enrolled in IET and what they have to say on their experience.
Hi everybody, my name is Marta Reyes. I'm the language literacy support teacher at San Isidro Adult School, and I currently provide students with vocabulary by front-loading vocabulary that will be in their chapter and working individually or in group settings with them to help them understand the content that they're being taught. Not necessarily teaching the content, but teaching what vocabulary or what gaps are occurring within the language that they're being exposed to. I also provide them with Burlington English that supports them by providing different scenarios that allows them the opportunity to practice those skills will be needed for the actual work field. I have 3 wonderful students here, Emiliano, Carmen, and Cynthia that will be sharing their testimony. How has having the literacy support teacher in their class helped them? So I'll start with Emiliano.
Ms. Reyes helps me a lot because she understands Spanish and she explains everything to me in English, but in a way I understand.
Carmen?
For me, it has been really useful because I have been improving my English a lot, and because in these classes we use a really hard terminology. For me, it's a new language, and she helped me a lot. And even when I want to get the apps, some apps, and I don't understand, she helped me, and for me, it's really useful because it's easier to do the classwork and everything. Thank you.
Cynthia?
Well, I feel like it has helped me with my pronunciation and my sentence structure, and I think I have widened my vocabulary as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
So moving forward, we have IT implemented into all of our CT courses. So how do we move forward from this point? So we're thinking about establishing an IET student cohort where we're seeing the progression of students from ESL into perhaps one of our medical pathways or any pathway of their choice and following those students in cohort. So we're making sure that we always have a prerequisite course in our CT course, ending with a capstone course. Our newest course that will be introduced in spring 2022 is Advanced Manufacturing, which will consist of 3 courses, each course to be completed in 9 weeks with IET embedded as well. And we're giving our building and construction a reboot as well. And for us, the most important thing too is to have continued industry collaboration with our industry partners. And the reason behind this is that as we're preparing students to go out into the workforce or into higher education, we want to make sure that our rigor 1 is high, that we have the equipment necessary to prepare our students with the most up-to-date workforce preparation. And seeing where we can change things around or how to change things around to better serve the students and the population that we're serving here in the South Bay.
Thank you, Anel. Sorry, I moved ahead, but we are at the end. So these are some of the pictures you can see at the top right. We have classrooms that are set up similar to like a doctor's office, so they get to actually practice within a similar setting. This was Anel at the bottom right here. She's teaching about child development. She's got a fake doll in her hands. And then to the left, I am not sure what this cake was designed for. Maybe Halloween, maybe something. So
Yes.
what was it?
Dia de los Muertos, a cultural.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, so, but any questions? Robert, are there any questions in the chat, or you can unmute and ask any questions?
Yeah, there are actually a few questions. There's 2 questions from Jessica Hernandez.
Okay.
She had mentioned, how do students qualify for DARC?
Okay, I can answer that. So DARC serves students if they think they have a disability and they're not sure. They can go and meet with the counselor and we will do disability testing. So even if you think I might have a disability, I'm not sure, it's harder for me to learn, students will self-refer. Because they're adults, they have to self-advocate and they have to self-refer. Our DARC teachers will go into each course and talk about it and talk about what kind of disabilities. And so from there, the students have a better idea if they can be a part of that or not. If a student has a documented disability, then usually we will co-enroll them with the Department of Rehabilitation, where they can get services from, we call it DOR, and also from us. And so really it is up to the student just to explore options with us. We do have in DARC a couple of workshops that is open to all students. So we're not just focusing on disabilities, we really try and integrate, and so it's open to all students. And then through those courses, a lot of times they'll go, I think, you know, I might need some more help.
Cool,
Just to
awesome.
add to that, I'm sorry. So it's a service that's offered through Sweetwater Union High School District. It's not outsourced.
No, it's not outsourced. We were really excited because adult ed has never had any type of disability support. And so we brought in a psychologist who is our program manager. We have a grant with the Department of Rehab. So we have a job developer, we have a career coach, we have an instructional assistant that helps our academic disability teacher. And so we've created a whole program around it through our funding.
Cool. And Jessica, do you want to ask your second question? Or one second.
Yes, let me just see what I asked. Oh, so
okay.
are the fairs coordinated by the teachers, or who puts on the fairs for the students?
The CT resource teacher, I connect with, collaborate with industry. Sometimes teachers also have industry partners, so we bring them all together. So I tend to be the one that coordinates all the virtual fairs, connecting with the teachers and seeing, what they have in place, what we can bring in. And again, there's always changes out in the community, so we're always making sure that we're keeping connected with industry or partners, and Audrey's a great support with that too, to our program.
Yeah, so my job is to go out into the community and outreach and let people know about adult education and what we have. So a lot of times I will come into contact with employers, and if they are in the same industry or field of some of our career courses, then I will try and establish the first contact and say, hey, we have an industry advisory. We also do employment or job fairs for the students. Would you be interested in doing those two things or being a part of it? And then from there, I will hand it off to Anel, and then she will contact them and set them up as she's setting up the events. And so that's how it kind of happens.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jessica. Robert, anything else?
I don't have any other questions in the Whova app.
Okay. Are there any other questions before we go ahead and end our session? All right. Well, thank you so much. I know that they're going to put our information, right, Robert? You're going to go ahead and put our information in emails. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or you want more information or to pick our brains. We are here to help in any way. So thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for attending as well. And Ban also mentioned a thank you as well for the presentation. So as you guys exit, please make sure to rate the session. And yeah, thank you for joining for this important work that everyone's doing. So thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.